Okay, so hello everybody. So if you guys are on the outside part of the library, you guys would come over, come feel free to grab a seat. We still have some coffee and donuts. So what this is called the exchange. And so the exchange happens every Tuesday at 3:30. And today we have Professor Rasure with us today from the School of Business. And she's going to talk a little bit about finances.
A little bit about finance. I talk about all the things finance. Just kidding, they're only giving me like 10 minutes, so what do you guys want to know? I'm just kidding. Let me give you a little bit of background. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Dr. Erika Rasure. I have a PhD in personal financial planning, which is ironic because my husband had to take my credit card away over the summer. True story. I'm not even joking. Not even joking. Anybody want to guess why he had to take my credit card away?
Fashion Nova.
What was that?
Fashion Nova, online stuff.
Too much shopping online?
Yeah.
Okay, that was one of the things. Amazon. Any other guesses? Impulse. Target. It was that. It was simply just an accumulation of months of overspending, of me being like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and watch this and see what happens, to the results being continually disastrous. But does that surprise you when I tell you that I have a PhD in personal financial planning? For heaven's sake, they pay me to teach you guys personal finance at this university. Yet my husband is the one who has to take my credit card away. Does that surprise you to hear that?
A little bit.
It should surprise you a little bit. But the reason I like to, the reason that this is perfect actually, is because it really speaks to the human journey of the money journey that all of us have. And I think this is something that everybody struggles with, regardless of how much you think you know, or if somebody, Maryville University, hires you to teach this to its students. It's important to know that throughout life, no matter what you do, you're going to, take missteps. You're going to make some mistakes. And I think money is one of those general areas where we kind of tend to beat ourselves up about. We're not always sure what we should be doing right, or when we should be doing it right, or when we should be investing, or when we should be saving, or when we should just be making the best of the money we have, and how to actually make that work. And so when you are starting out on your money journey, and I think the most poignant time that we realize that this is actually happening is when we get to college. And we're on our own for the most part. We might have support here or there. But I was a first generation college student. I had to take out student loans. I have a lot of student loans. And there's just so much uncertainty in how am I going to pay for school? I mean, how am I going to, get the stuff I need on the day-to-day with what I've got? Am I going to be worried about things? Is it okay to be worried about things? Oh my gosh, should I be investing? How many of you are investing right now?
Oh my God.
What do you invest in?
Vanguard.
What?
Vanguard.
How old are you?
21.
See, when I was 21, I was investing in like beer and Taco Bell. I didn't know what Vanguard was. Anybody know what Vanguard was? Or is? Not was, but is.
Mutual funds.
It's an index fund. That's a great investment. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How did you get involved in investing?
My parents.
Your parents. And so, that's pretty incredible for being 21. How many of you are investors? Haley, what do you invest in? Stocks. How did you go about getting involved in investing in stocks? Your mom? Yeah. How many of you are like, I don't even know what a stock is?
I know.
You know what
But I
it is.
don't know.
Right. So let me ask you another question. Am I allowed to ask them questions? I feel like I'm just like.
No, you're good.
But if you were to go, seek more information, on what is a stock and how might I get started investing, where do you think you would go first? WikiHow. How about the rest of you? Someone like me. That's a good answer. No, that's a really good answer. And I think this is something that is really special about Maryville, is that you have a lot of resources available to you on this campus. I think all of us are in a very unique position that we can have these kind of get-togethers and talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit. Because frankly, you know, money is still one of those things, you know, people would rather talk about their sex life than the balance in their checking account. Why do you think that is? Because it's still very taboo. And money is considered a very, very personal thing, and it's something that is very hard to ask questions about and around. And so knowing who to talk to is 90% of the battle. And being able to be on a campus to where you can recognize who those people are and know that you could come to any of us and say, who do I need to talk to about money here? Because I'm about to lose my mind because I don't know what to do about these student loans. It's stressing me out, and I only have $50 to get me through the rest of the month. How do I work through this? There are people like me who live for this and who live for you guys, and I know I'm not the only one on this campus. So one of the biggest things college in general equips you with is a lot of tools, and one of those tools is, again, finding out who you are yourself on your path, on your journey, academically and professionally, but also financially. There's a lot of things to be learned, and there's a lot to be said about that continuous path of learning. I have learned how to get my credit card back. I have it back. Haley's in my personal finance class right now, and you saw me whip it out. I was like, I got it back, guys. I did it. But you have to be able to check in with yourself and be honest with yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with talking to somebody about where you are financially, where you want to be. Start having that conversation. But you first got to have that conversation with yourself. And then once you have that conversation with yourself and get real and honest and authentic with who you are and where you want to be, you can start having that conversation with other people. And please know that I'm always an available resource to you, whether you're, you know, I'm a professor in the School of Business, but I don't care, you know, you could be wherever. Come see me. That's what I'm here for. So. Hi, Kelly. Hi. So what I was just telling everybody how my husband took my credit card away over the summer.
It's a little awkward.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, thanks. I got it back though.
Oh, good. You're in the back.
Target. All right. So what can I do for you guys? What do you guys want to talk about now? You got some questions? Anything? I'm an open book. It's a true story. Yes, Kelly.
How do you help college students learn how to budget? And by college students, I mean also higher education professionals.
Name Dr. Kelly Mock.
No!
No!
Kelly Mock's husband.
I think budgeting is a dirty word to me a little bit, and I think it is for a lot of people. I equate budgeting to dieting. You know, budgeting itself is really kind of what comes in and then what goes out. So it's, you know, like what you're eating and what you're exercising off, you know, how you're balancing that. And so if you have, you know, more expenditures than obviously income coming in, you're going to be, you know, kind of in the hole, which is a problem, obviously. And people turn to credit cards and whatnot. And so the biggest thing when it comes to budgeting is just, I encourage everybody to start just getting a really great sense of how much money they've got coming in and what's going out. But you have to be really honest with yourself. You know, I mentioned that a little bit ago. You kind of got to get real. When you're thinking about the things that are actually coming in, whether it be, and I think college students in general, it's a little bit more difficult to budget because, you know, when I was a college student, I was, like I said, I have a number of student loans, first generation college students, and you know, I had some, you know, scholarships and whatnot. But for me to live, I relied on my refund. So how do you budget that over the entire amount of the semester? And so those are kind of the things you've got to think about and anticipate and really kind of play out in your mind what that's going to look like. And so yes, it's an exercise in discipline, and it can be an exercise in sacrifice, but it becomes an exercise in discipline and sacrifice, which becomes really uncomfortable and kind of that dirty word territory when you're not honest with yourself. You know, you can't just hide You know, you can't, you can totally stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and be like, no, I'm not putting anything on my credit card. But let's get real. You're still spending that money. So, again, everything starts with taking that kind of authentic look and also making it easy. So there's like, you know, there's a lot of apps and stuff that you can use that can help you with the budgeting process. What I've always found, at least when I started to learn how to budget, Excel is still like a really easy go-to, or even just like a piece of paper. When you don't have a whole lot, you know, coming in and not a whole lot going out, that piece of paper can kind of help you. I had a Post-it that just like traveled with me, like everywhere I went, you know, for a while. And then I moved to Excel. And then there's these really great apps now that can help you kind of keep track of things. But if you ever want any recommendations for any of that, depending on where you're at, oh gosh, please come talk to me. I forget off the top of my head. What else? Anybody in a relationship? You guys want a good date idea? Kelly. You guys want a good date idea? So one of the things I recommend to everybody I work with is if you're in a long-term relationship with somebody and you're getting to the point where you're getting serious, i.e. you're thinking about getting engaged or living together or married, have a credit report date. You know why? Because the love of your life might have been lying to you this whole time. That person might have $100,000 in credit card debt you don't know about. I'm serious. You guys are looking at me like I'm all crazy. I'm not. I'm not. I'm really a wealth of information. But no, even things like sitting down with your significant other and talking and having real conversations and knowing what's on each other's credit report can really help you long term. Because you guys know what the #1 cause of divorce is? It's money troubles. It's not somebody cheating on somebody else. It's money. Isn't that interesting? So money is going to permeate the entire context of your entire life. And so it's really important for you as you grow and develop on your journey, and especially before you start bringing other people in on your journey with you, like, you know, significant others or children or any of those things. And I know I'm probably talking about things that are way off in the horizon for you, but they're going to come fast. They're going to come fast, and they're going to be things that you really need to get a good handle on for yourself so you can really build the future you want. What else? This is fun. I'm trying to think of any other Erika shenanigans I can share with you. Kids are really expensive. Got 2 of those. They're real pricey. What else? Kelly.
So one of the things that I am asking mainly to help you guys is recently my husband and I purchased our second home together.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He does not have the cleanest credit history. I have a cleaner record, but he has better credit. Can you talk to them about kind of how to establish good credit? Because I think that was a sore spot for us a little bit, because he said, well, we were able to get a better percentage because he had longer term. He moved out on his own earlier. He had owned a home before us, before we had purchased our first home together. So, I mean, he had built up some things, even though he had had a couple of dings on his report.
Right.
But where I had almost a spotless, I mean, if we still had credit, we're still great, but we were better to go with him on our mortgage, and I took offense to that. And so I think helping young people understand like how and when, if you don't mind.
Oh gosh, no. So I think in general there's a lot that goes into the credit score and what that looks like and this number that spits out. And I think there's something even more important to understand about the credit score in general is that a lot of times it's completely maddeningly nonsensical. Like it's just some random number that pops out, and there's 3 different credit reporting bureaus, And each one of them will have a different number, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So there are really 5 categories that comprise your credit score. And so 35% of your credit score is based on whether or not you make your payments on time. And 30% is related to your credit utilization, which means if you've got, you know, $1,000 credit balance on a credit card, as long as you're using like less than 30% of that, you're pretty good. 15% is your length of credit history, and 10% is new credit, and 10% is the types of credit in use. Okay, so you take all of these things together. So these 5 pieces make up this, and we know that the majority of that is whether or not you're making your payments on time. So what does that tell you about what you should be doing with your payments? Make them on time. But in a situation like Kelly, she's shaking her head very angrily right now. Very, very angrily. Sometimes you can do everything right and it still doesn't necessarily make sense. And that's where it's very important just to understand that that is also just kind of a fact of the credit score itself. It's not a perfect system, and it can be maddening and infuriating. And I don't know, Kelly, did you have any errors on your credit report? Nothing. Just.
So I think the difference is, and you helped actually, you covered it right there, is the number and type, the diversity that he had in his credit history was a lot different than mine. I was raised to, you never touch a credit card. You don't do that. And so I didn't open my first credit card until after college.
Yeah.
Maybe even after grad. I mean, it was long because I had to make fear of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I have to college students is don't wait to open credit. And if you're scared about it, come talk to me about it, and I'll try and help you work through that fear, because it is a very real fear, especially if you've grown up, you know, with parents that, you know, like, you gotta be careful. And I don't disagree. You do have to be careful with your credit. But the unfortunate nature of the way credit works in the United States of America is that if you want really super duper great credit, you've got to establish it early, because again, 15% of your credit score is attributed to your length of credit history. And then talking about that mix of credit, you know, it's not just good enough to have one credit card. You should have a credit card and a store card and an auto loan or a personal loan, and you know, some other balance in there to really kind of boost that. And I was actually just talking about this in class today. Just talking about this is, you know, if you're finding yourself at that point where you want to buy a house in a few years, and you've already established, you know, a credit history with a credit card, and you still can't like get your score to budge like over 700, you're going to have to consider getting something else in the mix to get it to boost that. Yep.
Sliding a debit card as a credit card won't count to that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Sliding a debit card as a credit card won't count towards that.
That is correct. So a debit card and a credit card are 2 totally different things, even though they operate in the same manner. A debit card is tied to your checking account, and a checking account is not tied to your credit. But they do function the same. Always treat a debit card like you would cash. Frankly, treat a credit card like you would cash. But it's a little bit more difficult mentally to do that, I think.
How do student loans affect your credit score?
So student loans can affect your credit score in a lot of ways, and it depends on, again, your repayment terms. So if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're let's say you have federal loans, and you know they come due 6 months after you graduate, as long as you're paying on time and as agreed upon, you're in good shape. But what happens when you want to go back to graduate school, and maybe you want to defer your loans while you're in graduate school for a little while? You can do that, and you can continue to make interest-only payments, or depending on the type, maybe you won't have to do interest-only payments, period, and you can just defer them. But credit, your credit will not be affected negatively as long as you're paying on time. Okay. Now, where credit card debt, student loan debt, car debt, any kind of debt can impact you is your ability to get more debt and how much more debt you can get. So if you've got a lot of student loan debt, if you've got a car loan and a lot of credit card debt and all of these things together, and you maybe want to buy a house, it's important to understand that you might not be able to buy as much house as you want because you have all this other debt elsewhere. So when you're thinking about your future, and I would assume, I mean, I don't want to make this assumption, but it's a pretty decent assumption based on what I do know, is most people do eventually want to buy a home of their own, or a condo or something. So most people want to have some ownership of property. Be aware that if you are taking out a lot of debt now, whether it be in student loans and credit cards and all of that, it will influence your ability to buy a home later. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with taking out student loans. There's nothing wrong with taking out a credit card. There's nothing wrong with taking out a car loan. But it's important to be strategic about it. Don't have a car loan when you're getting ready to, take out a mortgage. Pay that bad boy off a year or two ahead of time. Same with your credit cards. Student loans are kind of one of those things, and because I have a fair amount of student loans, I wouldn't say I'm more flexible about my philosophies, but I'm more informed about it because I have them. But I do consider student loans in a lot of ways an investment, because had I not had the availability to take out student loans, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. But I didn't take out more than I needed to. And I think that's important to understand. And yes, I'm going to be paying on my student loans for like 20 years. And that's okay. And I've come to terms with that. But again, it's within reason. It's within, my realm of what's comfortable. And keep in mind, that's another thing I want to emphasize too. Your money journey is going to be different than everybody else's. Don't compare yourself financially to other people. It's hard. We do it in every area of our life. But don't compare yourself to other people where you can wait. That person who's driving a luxury car, who lives in a big house, they might very well be renting that house, and that car might be leased. And they might have nothing in savings. Or maybe not. But we don't know that about people. Okay? But don't compare yourself to other people. It's very difficult to do, but keep your head down and keep your story your own. Write the story you want to write, and use your experiences to inform that story. Okay? What else? Anything? I'm serious. Anybody who ever wants to come talk to me, please do. Definitely, please do. I love that so much. All right.
Let's give Dr. Rasure a round of
Thank
applause.
you guys.